Three new books about the Israel-Gaza conflict just revealed something shocking. A Google Maps review near Gaza's security barrier actually promoted it as a tourist spot with a nice view of the Gaza Strip. That single detail captures the surreal disconnect at the heart of this crisis.
That's such a jarring example of what these authors are exploring, how people can normalize even the most troubling situations. The way Gideon Levy documents these moments is particularly powerful.
You know what's fascinating about Levy's perspective? He's been reporting on this region for over 40 years, and he describes how dreams of collective retribution, once confined to the far right, have become completely mainstream.
And that transformation really comes through in his description of visiting Sderot after October 7th, calling it the scariest place he's ever seen. The contrast between before and after is striking.
Right? And what's particularly interesting is how these three authors, Levy, Grossman, and Beinart, each process that October 7th turning point so differently. Take David Grossman. Here's someone who's been consistently critical of the occupation, but that event seemed to shake something fundamental in his worldview.
The way he describes life becoming more fragile and precarious really captures that shift, doesn't it? And his admission about Israel potentially not surviving the next war without outside help. That's quite something coming from a prominent voice on the left.
Well, what makes these works so compelling is how they're grappling with these deeper questions about moral identity and collective trauma. Like when Peter Beinart introduces this concept of ways of not seeing. It's really about how people create these psychological frameworks to reconcile conflicting realities.
So what do you make of Beinart's analysis of the generational divide in the American Jewish community? It seems to go beyond just political differences.
Oh man, exactly. It's about fundamentally different ways of understanding Jewish identity itself. And you know what's particularly striking? The way he documents how speaking out against the Stand with Israel line comes with real consequences. Hate mail, vitriol, accusations of anti-Semitism.
The media's role in all this is fascinating too, especially Levy's observation about Israeli TV becoming this nationalistic cheerleader, showing only one side's suffering.
And that connects directly to what he documents about the IDF's changing behavior. Soldiers taking selfies with plundered items, officers engaging in what he calls infantile humiliation. It's this degradation of professional conduct that really concerns him.
Well, looking at how these authors view the future, none of them seem particularly optimistic. The way they describe the increasing isolation and internal divisions is pretty sobering.
You know what really gets me? Levy's question about what Israel has gained from the war besides joy at Gaza's calamity. He points out that Hamas hasn't been crushed, and internationally, Israel is more isolated than ever, except for US support.
That ties into Beinart's powerful question about how long Jews can view themselves as history's permanent virtuous victims, while confronting current realities.
Exactly. And it's interesting how all three authors touch on this idea of denial in different ways. Whether it's Grossman's total denial of reality in Israeli society, Beinart's ways of not seeing in the American Jewish community, or Levy's documentation of growing indifference to Palestinian suffering.
The way they weave together personal reflection with broader societal analysis really helps us understand the human cost on all sides.
And that might be the most valuable contribution these books make. They're forcing us to examine the psychological and moral dimensions of this conflict, asking us to think deeply about what it means to maintain our humanity in the face of such tragedy. It's not just about politics or military strategy. It's about how societies process trauma and either confront or avoid moral responsibilities.
That's why these works feel so crucial right now. They're asking the difficult questions that need to be asked, even when the answers aren't comfortable or clear.